may not be suitable for all audiences.
We are coming to you live from Ditka's here on Thanksgiving Day, a day for giving thanks for or taking punishment from a team that is known as the Bears. The Bears!
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher, a professional artist and educator, attempting to provide the best in art historical content. If you like the content, like, share, subscribe. Thank you.
So this is a bookstore. Smells boring.
So today I'm at Pageturners in Indianola, Iowa at this Halloween event. They were giving out these Halloween books, and this one was an art book. So I thought, hey, whatever it is that I got in this here package, we're going to do a thing on. So looks like we're going to be doing a video. So this book, Make Your Art No Matter What, Moving Beyond Creative Hurdles by Beth Pickens, is kind of an interesting read. She very much writes from the perspective of an outsider artist. Her perspective as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, her wife's profession as an artist and painter, and their political views and social views are very much ingrained into this text, as any opinion-based text might be. There are moments where she gets a little preachy with things, but for the most part I appreciate her perspective and views on things, and I think that her voice definitely has merit and is necessary for artists. And so at the end of the day, 3 out of 5 stars, so take that as you will. But let's get into what the meat of this is about.
Everyone was so drunk, I bet no one even remembers what you said.
I remember. I blogged the whole thing.
She starts off by talking about time. Time is limited, so we need to use our time wisely. And there are often times in life that we don't have time for what we want and what we need. As we get older, time goes a little bit faster. As artists, we don't feel like we have enough time to make our art. And this is largely a perception. We need to be able to reclaim time, consider how we're using time, and she provides numerous strategies for doing that in the text. This is something that has to be structured into your daily life and daily routine, as it is not sustainable just to live your life like you're at an art retreat. Sometimes art is a sacrifice from other things. That's just the nature of what we do. And sometimes we need to think about using our time for relaxation, for work, for play, for art, for all these different things. And she gives, again, a lot of techniques for doing that. And one of them that really stood out to me was warming up before you're jumping in, just like an athlete does. When I was a college wrestler, you didn't just jump on the mat and start wrestling. You had to warm up. You had to get your blood flowing and get ready to go. A lot of times we forget that creative flow, that exercise and warm-up really needs to take place for artists, as art is probably the most competitive, one of the greatest sports ever on the face of the earth. And yeah, that's what I said.
Because this ain't about education. It ain't much about winning, and it sure as hell ain't much about basketball. It's about money.
As artists, we take on all kinds of employment. She spends a whole chapter talking about work. Making 100% of your income from art does not make you less of an artist. Vincent van Gogh sold but one painting his entire professional career, but that doesn't diminish the fact that he was a great artist. I don't think anybody's going to go and say that. And quite frankly, he didn't make a whole lot of income from it. But let's fast forward to today's world. There's this myth that's out and about that a half-time artist is not good enough to make it. But there are teachers that have to take on second jobs because they need to make ends meet. There are artists that have to take on other employment or a day job to make ends meet. There are lots of people that have multiple incomes and multiple careers and do other things to make ends meet. And there are lots of ways that this gets structured. She goes into that in the book. But at the end of the day, the artist does not have to make money to be valuable. There are lots of motives behind why you make what you make. You can make money off physical artwork, you can make money off skills, you can make money off teaching, you can make it through all kinds of means. And again, she details a lot of these things that you can learn about doing this in the book. She goes into a chapter about asking for help, asking for support, asking for resources. There's a million reasons as to why we ask for things or why we don't ask for things, and it oftentimes boils down to fear. Sometimes the visionary artist does not become successful. There are examples of great artists working in obscurity while dumbass artists get attention. I mean, look at any TikTok feed, you'll see examples of both. If you self-remove from the pools of people by not asking for help, not asking for resources, you are not helping someone else succeed, as you have no control of the resources. No one alone does. She goes into detail in the book as to things that you can do, techniques you can use to help ask for all of these things, and reassures people on that notion. She then goes into money. People react to money in all kinds of different ways, not often positive, not often negative, but at the end of the day, it's a resource. Not good, not bad, just a resource. She goes into several techniques that flow into the idea or realm of financial literacy. Again, if you want those things, read the book. She then jumps into fears, some rational or irrational. Accepting our fears is not the same as condoning our fears, and again, she goes into more of that detail in the book. She then does a chapter on grief. Artists sometimes work with grief, sometimes they use that as artistic fuel, sometimes it's the nature of art and life. There are all kinds of different ways to navigate through grief. There's a lot of lists provided in the book. The next chapter is on other people. People plus time equals conflict. She talks about mentorships, how to get a mentorship, how to balance a mentorship, what you should do to mentor others, and she discusses quite extensively on the lineage of art history, piece that's really interesting to me, as we can have a relationship with artists that have passed just through simply learning and understanding them. That's one of the key components of why Art 101 with Mr. Burgher exists. But again, there's more information about that, guess where, in the book. She jumps into education, talks about MFA is not always going to make you more money. Not getting the education does not mean that you're not going to be successful. There's no time constraints on when to go or when not to go. She does discuss that networking can be equivalent to an education and all kinds of different things. She'll boil that down a lot more if you go in and read the book. There is a chapter on thinking and feeling. Feelings are tools, and oftentimes artists deal with sublimation, an act of expressing emotions to others through the act of making something like art. Our feelings are not facts. Just because we feel like we're in danger does not mean we're in actual danger. One of the interesting components is the idea that artists do not make art to deal with depression or anxiety. They make art because they're artists. And it just so happens that they make artists to deal with some of their own personal issues or whatnot, and there are all kinds of other interesting nuggets of information in there if you'll just go by and read the book. She jumps into isolation, where she explains stories of artists being alone for days on end, isolating themselves, working on their work in isolation, and sometimes the use of social media can be a hindrance of that. I think she made a comment like, going to social media to counter isolation is like sitting in the bath when you're thirsty. Taking a break from social media and excluding those sorts of things every once in a while is really a great thing, and actually physically meeting with people and talking with people and that sort of thing is really the route that she suggests. And again, there are all kinds of tips and things like that in there if you will just pick up and read the book. Then she goes into marketing, and she talks about happening upon a book in a bookstore, and it really deepens the relationship to the art or the literature, and that is very true. That is very true to my experience with this text itself, just kind of happening across it in this sort of way at this giveaway, at this Halloween thing. But anyway, this is not actually how it always works. She suggests looking at what you're currently doing and boost that, whether that's your website, your social media, your email lists, your partnerships, and direct invitations to do things with marketing and all of that is really the route to go. There are all kinds of things in there, but I, again, suggest you read the book for even more information. And the last chapter prior to the conclusion is just a chapter on death and God, and this is mostly about having an acceptance of death that fosters life appreciation. And then in the conclusion, it just kind of reiterates those other points that have been brought up. And she asks you to remember that life is finite and you should make your art and do your thing and leaving your mark for all of humanity for the rest of time. But again, don't take my word for it. I give this 3 out of 5 stars. Really not a bad read with some very topical anecdotes. And again, I did walk away with some really good tips that help me evaluate some things that I'm doing. So hopefully that helps you as well, making a decision on picking this up. And again, I think you could pick this book up just about anywhere that books are sold. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. We'll see you next time.